with so much interest and demand in understanding where the texting channel is going, here we are with a Lunch and Learn. I'll hand it over to Chris and Trevor. One last comment. There's a lot of content here, and everybody's in a different spot. So if anything in this space is interesting, I recommend an offline conversation to calibrate it to where you are and where you're trying to go.
So a little bit about AuthVia. I kind of love this slide and I kind of hate this slide, right? So I'm not one to go out and thump your chest, but I do think it's important that we talk about and validate ourselves, right? Some of these logos that you see, I hate people that name drop logos, but these are our partners in the space today. We have built a platform over 10 years. We have designed it from billing and invoicing and payments from the ground up. We went about getting patents, getting and securing the partnerships that lead to what we think is the growth in this space. We are partnered with 4 of the 5 top payments companies. I think it's 8 of the top 10 where they resell us or refer us. We are partnered with all of the major messaging companies. Others will tell you they're partnered, but they're just buying messaging from them. They are not their go-to partner when it comes to commerce. It's been a long, hard road to get here, but they've bought into us because of our patents, because of our platform, and because of our team. Let's just talk a little bit about what we do today. For some of you, this is very commonplace, and for others, this might be a little bit further down the pipe than where you are today. But this is really about a consumer that gets a text from, in this case, Washington Trust Bank, that they owe $1,330. In this case, we've got a card on file, either in the AuthVia wallet or in the wallet of Washington Trust Bank. In this case, the consumer just is given a 4-digit alphanumeric code to go ahead and make that payment against that ACH on file. That's the happy path, right? That's the path where, for many of you, this is not the case. You're not necessarily going to have credentials on file. But in our world, this is something that's very commonplace. And it's the path that we're moving to in the collection space as well. And we'll get to how we're going to do that and why. You get a consumer, you send the same message. Our system's smart enough to know that we don't have a card on file in this case. And so we're going to hit you with a link. You're going to have a link preview. You're going to know where you're going. You're going to land there and you're going to put your credentials on file. In this case, it's ACH. Many of you do this today. This is a Plaid or a Visa type platform that we all use that enables me as a consumer to go ahead and make that payment. They get a rich receipt back, by the way, that goes into their wallet, and they get a text back with the receipt. But it's important that they have that for future references as well.
The other important thing that isn't shown there is in that use case, we are now vaulting that ACH credential. So the next time someone comes back to Washington Trust and wants to pay their bill, they can go through that screen that was prior to this and just reply with the 4-digit code. So every time we're engaging with someone, we're continuing to build up that wallet, really for the convenience of the consumer. Now, it obviously also becomes a convenience for you as collectors that they already have a credential on file, and they're able to use that with just that 4-digit code.
With any collector or merchant, right, this is stored and everyone else in the platform gets to use that same credential on file.
So as we continue to engage not only in the collections, recovery, and issuing space and build an arsenal of debit card and ACH credentials, we're also working across numerous other industries that have millions of consumers, like pharmacy. So you take a mid-sized pharmacy that might have 7 million scripts filled every month. They're going in and sending out payment requests. Those consumers are going in, and obviously they may be putting on credit cards sometimes, but increasingly they're putting on debit cards and ACHs for other types of utility bills or medical bills and things like that. The cloud-based wallet that we've developed is tied back to that individual user and is usable by that consumer for any of their merchant engagements or obviously in the collection space. In this cloud-based wallet, the cards or tokens that are stored with your existing processor, as well as interoperate with wallets like Skipify, Pays, Click to Pay, PayPal. And so our goal as a business isn't to be the wallet to rule them all, but more to create interoperability between them so that we can provide you guys the ability to provide your customers with the best, fastest, easiest payment experience.
And lastly on that one, Trevor, we're in the midst of launching with kind of the largest issuing player in the space. And so we expect that you can imagine some of the volumes that they're doing, that this wallet's going to be pretty robust here by the end of the year. And again, that just complements and makes life easier for everybody to get people to make a payment, one way or another through messaging. Let's dive into a little bit what we think are the 6 best practices for the industry. And you start with trust and you start with confidence. And so something you all are very familiar with is you've got to build that rapport with that consumer early on in order to get them to trust you. And there's about 6 or 7 things that we do with every single one of our customers, and it's a priority and it's required, right? Branded URLs, critical to having that consumer take that next step and go to the next page. Link previews, right? Where is this going to take me? You can see this little Washington credit thing down here. When I roll over, it's going to tell me I'm definitely going to the Washington Credit website. Branded pages. When I land, does it look and feel, when I get there, one of the early problems we had in the collection space was I might be on a certain card or a certain brand that I've got my card through, but I'm getting collected from a different entity as they transition from, hey, I'm collecting on behalf of this customer, but here's the new brand. All of that has to be really seamlessly brought to the consumer so that it's clear that this is about the brand I know and trust. And now I'm moving to this next conversation. And in personalization in the messaging, hey, we know, Pran, that we've got your number, we know your name, we know the amount you owe, we happen to have an ACH on file. All of that's brought to you to give confidence as well. And in composable content, when I land on that page, we can do everything in that page that allows you to, again, deliver content to them, whether it's authentication or whether it's disclosures or whether it's a fresh opt-in, whatever it might be that you need can be done when we get that consumer into that page. Security and compliance. This is a big one, right? And so a lot of people dive into this space and they think about compliance from one side of the sector or the other, right? So lots of companies are out there talking about we're the most compliant, we're the most compliant. There are layers upon layers of compliance that are required here. So there's the messaging layers that are compliant. There's the payments and financial services layers that are compliant. There's all the software underneath, SOC 2, HIPAA, PCI. There are many hurdles that you have to get through to get to this space. And so I think it's something that as you dive in farther, make sure that you check every one of these boxes, whether you're building it internally or going to third parties. In the messaging space, where we really dive in deep with our partners, and oftentimes our partners have their own messaging, and we're agnostic. We run on all the messaging platforms and we run on all the payment rails, but we are agnostic, but we still dive in and talk about, hey, let's make sure we've got all the built-in compliance. You've got all your opt-in language on your website, everywhere you're credentialed there, and you're building the right kind of database.
There's a number of traps throughout the system to alert you, to alert us, to stop things full stop, and to get permission and let certain elements through as necessary.
The third area of best practices, one you all probably know better than us, is the data. And so we are big believers in the fact that, the data in, right? Do we have clean opt-ins? Do we have handset validation? Do we have integrated identity and subscriber data? Are we doing all the things to make sure that with as high a degree of certitude as you can, that you're dealing with the right customer and right consumer on the other end of that device? And this is equally important, and we started in SMS only, but as you all know and you all live, right, there's this omni-channel that you reach out to consumers on, and you have to be effective across all of it. You have to maintain state across all of it, right? And the ability to be able to reach out over text or chat, reach out over email, reach out using QR codes through voice and through IVRs and all those ways that you want to be able to reach out. The system has to be smart enough to understand that if Scott made a payment, he mailed in a check, right? The entire rest of the system should be updated. A text should go out and say, Scott, thank you for that payment of $75. And everything should be kept in sync and in real time. As our customers have shown us, right, in order to drive enhanced results, and this kind of goes with that digital omni-channel, right? So the conversation framework, maintain state. There's lots of ways to get to market, with us in particular, and I'm sure with other partners as well. But you want to be thinking about this on a multi-front, right? So do I just do a batch automated files? Do a measured and focused batch file approach to getting consumers to help them pay sooner, better, faster, not just blast out to a database of consumers with a link to go back to a website to try to make a payment. Really focus in on that specialized user experience with each consumer, but still do that through a batch formatting system. Whether it's embedding QR codes that link into the same system that go out at the same time, deflection from IVRs, integrations with our API so you've got real-time data flowing in and out and really across all of your touch points, or leveraging this through agent conversations where instead of bouncing out to a really bad IVR experience, right, or taking a card over the phone, which none of you do, we send a link, hit it, they make the payment, and they're done. So lots of ways to think about deploying this as you go out across your enterprise, but know that partners in this space should be able to talk with you about each segment that you look at and be able to help you effectively manage that.
For most people today, they're sending out something that isn't this sophisticated. and then the next page builds on the actual payment if it isn't on in the wallet. Is this sort of where people would start? And what's the lift to go from sending out pretty standard templates with URLs to websites? What's the lift between there and here?
We do this directly out of the platform. So the beautiful thing about having built this for numerous industries, lots of different use cases, is that this truly is a platform. You could be set up with us in less than a week, sending these directly from an agent portal or out of a CSV file, FTP, dropped in a folder for us. So this is the standard thing that if we just turn the platform on tomorrow, it will do this because we're managing those pages on the back end. We're managing those link previews, and it's all templatized.
And then lastly, again, this really comes from the core of our DNA, which is the last 10 years in this space, right? So you're going to find that everybody starts with sending a link, then you want a smart link, then you want to move to this customized messaging and be able to really create a personalized experience. And as such, we've seen 64% acceleration in time to cash, right? We've seen the first 6 months of a collections campaign, we saw 20% of all payments were being done over our text to pay platform, right? And that grows month over month over month as consumers get trained and they learn more about it and they trust it and they come back to it. It takes time, it takes trust, it takes all of these things to really build a great customer experience that's going to benefit you as a collector. We saw a 34% reduction in agent costs, right? So instead of getting stuck talking to an agent on the phone, I can negotiate my debt and make a payment. And if I can do that in a really seamless environment, it's really powerful.
We've left a couple of the non-collections related examples up there across retail, across field services, across service industries, pharmacy. The ability to do things like capture a waiver or provide a disclosure. What this really focuses on is each payment conversation with each consumer. We've seen to be the best practice, making it specific to what you're trying to accomplish there. Can you solve this for Inky Fusion with sending them back to the website? Yes, you probably could, but when the consumer gets there, there's so many things they can do on that page. Not dissimilar to some of the portals out there from a collection standpoint. The best practice is keep them very focused on the thing you're trying to get them to do. Make that first payment. Sign up for that payment plan and schedule those payments. Just put a new card on file because the old card on file or the old ACH failed in that last piece. And in terms of one other element on the ROI, not specific to RCS, but for text to pay, we really tend to see within our clients a number of different levers that they are trying to push for. And it really depends on the business problem you're trying to solve or wanting to accelerate. So we have collections folks who say, my goal is to reduce, I want to increase payment rate while reducing agent cost. So, we have clients who are measuring that. And I think Chris mentioned a number of 34% with one of our first party clients. We reduced the agent cost by 34% while increasing payment rate. But their real goal was I want to automate the payments that can be automated over text. We have others who are focused on roll rate. We have others who are focused on, I have a problem that I need to solve. I need to deliver these disclosures and get a signature, even well before payment. So doing some of the ID verification, really identifying the purpose of that campaign. We're very happy to work with teams to say, how do we build the right type of the messaging and the right type of landing page with using the intelligent blueprints to really go after that ROI and then be able to measure it on a day by day and campaign by campaign basis.
For those of you that know NPS scores, to have an NPS score in collections of 81 is probably unheard of. We are really thrilled by this, and we think it really speaks to the fact that if you kind of take care of that customer and you give them a world-class experience, they're going to love it.
We're doing this all over the industry, but we have a lot to learn about how it applies to the arms space and collections and recovery and debt buying and the idiosyncrasies in your business. And so we are approaching this with open arms and open eyes and ears to say, what don't we know? What is important? How could you use data that we get for one reason to use it in another reason? And so we do want this to be a partnership and a real collaboration. I think as we continue to build out the breadth of the wallet, it helps everyone. But also as we learn some of the other values that this channel and the types of technology we have can bring, we're truly looking at this as a partnership. It may be that our operational model, it may be that our pricing, it may be that our integration model isn't exactly right for your industry. And we're super interested in learning what does work, how should we operate and do those things. We're not deep enough in this space to just be a vendor, so we get to partner, which is honestly more fun.